You're listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft, the people who play it. Today is December 13th, 2023, the 14th, 2023, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing on this fine Thursday?
Spencer, I'm here. We're both here. That's about all I got for you, I guess. It's been a couple weeks for sure around my neck of the woods, but I keep waiting for that gentle on-ramp into the holiday season. I'm off between Christmas and New Year's. I like to take my long winter's nap, and I'm just not quite getting there yet. I'm hoping maybe after today or something that we'll have a nice little ramp down, but no signs of it yet. Usually that's the time of year, but I'm hanging in there. I've been playing a lot of WoW. Luckily, WoW has been a lot of fun and a bit of a refuge for me the last few weeks. So that's a good thing. Thanks, WoW, for being there for me.
Yeah, it is also the time of year where I expect things to ramp down inside my workplace, and I expect things to get a lot calmer, and that has not been the case. There's been a lot of issues and a lot of talk of financial crunches and layoffs and all sorts of stressful things happening, which of course are always wonderful to have right around Christmas. So I'm hoping next week things start to calm down a bit more, because this week has been frenetic, and then this weekend's crazy for broadcasting and stuff. So it'll be a busy time heading into next week, and I'm hoping next week is calmer. However, I too have had a good time in World of Warcraft this past week. I actually spent a little bit of my time this past week, a good chunk of it actually, watching the WoW variety show that happened. I don't know if you caught any of that, Jason.
Nice. I didn't actually. It was Saturday, right? Saturday was my birthday, and I didn't do anything like huge, but I was hanging out with the family and just having a meal and relaxing and stuff. So I wasn't really like getting into playing games or really watching anything, on Twitch or whatever. But I did like the format that they did before, and it seemed like they had some really fun stuff cooked up for using hardcore servers for it.
Very cool things. So it all took place on not all of it, but the hardcore stuff that took place where it was killing Hogger, right? First one to kill Hogger, which happened at like level 5 or 6.
Oh wow, that's rogues. Pro play right there, man.
Because rogues could throw daggers, and so there was a lot of like people bringing Hogger around and jumping over fences back and forth to make him run around the fences and throwing daggers at him, and people trying to pull off other people and make Hogger reset on each other, and a lot of things like that. That was neat. It was very, very kind of cool to see. And they had another feature going at the same time, which was this wheel of buffs and debuffs. And so a wheel would come up on the screen it was every 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and it would spin, and like something random would happen in the game, and they could make it happen live and instantaneously. So like some of the things we saw were
that's really cool.
Were 10% less health across the board, so everyone lost 10% health. Was one thing that happened. There was 50% increased movement speed, so everyone gained 50% increased movement speed.
Oh wow!
Yeah, there was.
That's huge. That's faster than level 40 mounting.
Yeah,
right? Or is it 60%? I don't remember. But it's about as fast as an old school mount.
It was huge. And then they had one called Tipsy, where your screen becomes blurred as if you're drunk, and mobs' levels aren't represented the way they're supposed to be. So you might see a mob that's level 6 and think it's level 3 because you're tipsy, which means you could pull something you aren't ready for as a hardcore character, which is also kind of a crazy thing. So they did a bunch of
wow.
They had a whole bunch of things on the wheel, just really fun stuff that they were doing with it. So that was the start of the hardcore stuff, right? Those characters then got to level up as high as they possibly could for the actual Volcoross tournament that happened later that day, right? So they had like Sunny and a bunch of other big time PvP folks that were in there, celebrity PvP folks that were in there, that were going to compete in this Volcoross tournament, as well as anyone else who had actually applied and gotten in and sort of leveled up. And so there's a lot of strategies of like, do you just try and get to the highest level as possible? Do you try and get the best gear as possible? Like, what's sort of the goal or an objective here? And then what classes are people going to bring? And Paladin ended up winning the thing out. Sunny got second place as a Frost Mage against, as a mage in general, against a Paladin. He actually beat a Paladin to get into second place. So it was possible that he could win, but he did not. It was an impressive showdown inside the Volcoross stuff. If both players did not win in a 10-minute period, the admins dropped them from the sky and killed both characters. So,
oh wow,
there was pressure to actually fight.
That's awesome. I'm glad they had these tools to like manipulate the server in like real time for the players to kind of play against the admins in a way. That's really cool.
It was very cool. So I mean, overall, the thing was actually quite fast paced and fun to actually watch, which we haven't seen in a lot of different WoW events. Sometimes they've sort of found slow or kind of doldrums. They went from one thing to the next pretty quickly, which definitely kept me interested. So I think they did a good job with that. And then, of course, they had the Season of Discovery, Black Fathom Deep's race, right? Raid race that took place. And it was neat to see some of the teams trying out different strategies for that. I think one team's goal was to pull the entire place in like 12 pulls or something, or 7 pulls or something really ridiculous, where they were just going to do these huge, giant group pulls. And you saw some really high-performing DPS, and all the characters that they were bringing were their current characters on Season of Discovery. So it took place on Season of Discovery live servers is where the race took place.
Okay.
So there were some teams that obviously had, gotten better luck with gear in the first few resets that had happened, or some teams that were obviously more familiar with the raid than others. But in general, it was pretty tight. I mean, the first team won, I think, by just a few minutes over the second, and they were a few minutes over the third. So it was good to see, but overall, I just think it was a good variety show. They did a good job with it, and so I wanted to highlight it here at the top just because it was worth watching, and I'll be looking forward to the next one that they do.
That's awesome. And I think like the sandboxy nature of Vanilla WoW, we've talked about this before, but especially when you have these different flavors of it, like the seasonal stuff and the hardcore stuff, it really presents them an opportunity to do something different with a spectator event like this, or a community participation event. Even you have a little bit of both. You have some people participating in it, and then you have the spectator event. That's cool. I think in a lot of ways, vanilla lends itself to that better than retail because the scale of everything is so much smaller, and it's probably in some ways it's probably more simple for them to manipulate some of that stuff where you have like Hogger and you have a PvP duel, like you can do stuff to that to make it, to spice it up and to kind of, mix it up for the players.
And for people who want to participate, the whole thing takes place below level 20, which means you don't exactly have the most buttons to deal with and mechanics to deal with. And like, there were certainly some tricky things, like people picking up, there's a particular quest you can do in Goldshire that gets you these bombs that you can throw. And so people were like hoarding these bombs for certain fights to try and use these bombs to blow up their opponent, quickly, or like use an execute almost in these situations. Sonny was using them to essentially use polymorph as an interrupt. So he'd polymorph someone who was casting and then throw a bomb at them immediately to break the polymorph. Things like that, like just neat little tricks that people would pick up that sort of separated people from the crowd. But at the same time, like, you're still talking about like 6 buttons that someone can press in this situation.
Yeah, you don't have that many spells,
So it is something that's pretty accessible, I would say, for a lot of players, and pretty relatable for a lot of players. So, and it's neat to showcase what you can do even at a low level. So yeah, I think overall it was a good event. So I'm glad that that took place. And like I said, I'll look forward to the next one. And how was your past week in World of Warcraft?
Oh man, really busy. I mean, last time we spoke was what, Tuesday last week or Wednesday last week? I guess it was Wednesday. So I had Wednesday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday raids and Keystone nights in addition to some other stuff. So last week we finished at 8 of 9 heroic. We ended up killing Smolderon with a big group, like 24 or something, like way bigger than we had killed before. I think we paired it down to like 18 for the initial Smolderon prog kill. That fight just sucks with a bigger group. Straight up, and it's unfortunate, but that's the reality of it. The platform doesn't get bigger. The circles go out on as many people or as in the group divided by 2, and the platform is as big as it is. But with that many people, actually, Tindral felt easier. It didn't feel as punishing with a bigger group. The positioning requirements aren't as tight as long as everybody does the mechanics right. When the seeds go out, that's pretty hectic. You have to be careful, but people were pretty good about using immunities or using damage reduction or whatever, and making sure that we got all the seeds and everything, or we cleared the throughput check without too much of a problem. So that was great to finish up, week 4 at 8 of 9. We had a little bit of time to look at Farok last week and kind of just got nowhere, not even really getting through phase 1 or intermission 1 cleanly. But then, so this week we came back through and started back up. We're still doing normal, unlock, but the normal unlock is not great in this raid if you're trying to save time, because you still have to kill 5 bosses in order, to get through to Farok loot, right? Like, you have to kill the first 2 bosses to get to the bridge to Smolderon, to then kill Smolderon and then kill Tindral and then kill Farok. And that takes, like, even on normal outgearing and everybody knowing what to do and you're just kind of zooming through, that still takes half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that, which cuts into raid time. So what we did this week was I brought my Guardian Druid, which is not like particularly well geared for normal raid, but it doesn't matter that much. And it's a character that I like and I want to play, but I have really no interest in raiding right now. Like, he'd sort of be, second in line behind the monk for alt knights or whatever. So I figured, okay, I'll just go up until Tindral's dead, and then we'll just stash that ID. So we'll just do Farok to start the week every week now, and we don't have to go back through these other 5 bosses. But this was the week of stashing the alt. So we spent a bunch of time on normal on Tuesday, but then we got all the way back through Smolderon Tuesday night. So we killed 12 raid bosses in 2 hours on Tuesday night.
Wow.
And we killed Smolderon with 27, I want to say. It was more than last week. It was an extremely full group. So that was cool. Last night we went in, and it didn't take very long to clean up Tindral. And again, we had 27. No, I think we had a full 30 for Smolderon on Tuesday. I'm sorry. So I didn't think we could do it, to be honest with you, because the space demands are just way too punishing, but we did it. So full 30 player group through Heroic Smolderon week 5 was awesome. I had 27 show up last night. We killed Tindral in 2 or 3 pulls, so it wasn't a bad reclear at all. But we started getting into Farok and kind of getting into the nitty gritty. We used Vantis runes. We had a cauldron for potions, and it was okay, we're trying to prog on this. So use your consumables, get all of your stats, do what you can do. We can't afford 2 Dream Rain casts in phase 1. This thing needs to go. And I think we were 5 healing for 27, which really kind of wasn't quite enough. And the dispellable debuff that does the ticking dot is so brutally punishing, and it doesn't seem to scale very well. We were just treading water for about half an hour, and it was unfortunate, but I had to cut the group down. I just really had no other choice because it just wasn't working out. And we had some people who were kind of underperforming, undergeared, and not really people who I would say, yeah, I'll bring you to AOTC prog. I'll get you your AOTC. You'll get everything you want, but not the first time, right? So I had to do that, and that always sucks as the raid leader. You want everybody to have fun, you want everybody to participate, and then plus people get mad, and then they get mad at you, and then it's hard to kind of celebrate your victories if you have them because you do it in a way that made everybody happy, right? So that sucked, but the reality was once 7 people were removed from the group, my healers were going into intermission and phase 2 with 50% mana instead of 2% mana. The fight just doesn't work with that many people at this point in time, I feel like. There's a scaling problem or something, because all of the healers were exhaling a huge sigh of relief the instant that we pulled it with 20 people, and they were oh yeah, we can manage this. So we ended up, we were having some pretty good pulls actually right off the bat with a smaller group, and then our buddy Maticus jumped in from DJs and from around ZTH. He was free, and we were okay. I wanted to tag him in if he was available because he knew the fight, he'd already done it, and he gave us some really valuable advice about hero timing and everything. And 23 pulls in total, and we got AOTC for that crew, so that was awesome.
Congratulations, very nice.
Yeah, it feels really good, man. It's only 5 resets for 9 bosses. This is an easy tier, but you still got to put the work in. So, and everybody who when you defeat Farok, you get the quest that gives you the transformation for your Proto Drake to look like Shadow Flame Farok, which is awesome. So that was a nice big win. Now, rating is going to be a little weird for the next couple weeks because of holidays. So we're going to be missing Sundays. So we only have 2 nights. But, we'll compensate by saving time on normal. And, stuff is really starting to speed up now that we got the Helm enchants unlocked for most of the team. And people are really starting to gear up. So, I think this raid is great. I'm having a great time. We're going to start up some Mythic this coming Sunday and see how Gnarl Root fares and move on from there. So, yeah, that rules.
Yeah, I definitely think this raid tier is at the right difficulty level. I think we are getting closer to where I think I just want to consistently see raids come out. I do not think that we need to go back to the way things were the past couple expansions. I think we are trending in a good direction, and what Blizzard needs to do is continue trending in this direction into the next expansion, and we'll see where that's at and where that feels, because like this is the content that needs to feel fun for people to play and needs to feel like it's something that players are able to achieve and enjoy and accomplish. And as much as I know that we're heading into the, content drought, if you will, of Dragonflight, because we're not going to have basically new content coming out for a little while. I mean, we might have the next little patch drop, but it's not going to be substantial content for a while. But
not in terms of like repeatable raids. Yeah, no, nothing like that.
That's not
we're not going to have an actual new raid until first tier of War Within, most likely.
Exactly.
I mean, they maybe we'll get some little kind of something. We know we're going to get season 4, which is going to remix stuff, but it's going to be the same fights. So yeah, it's going to be a minute until we have an actual new zone to get in and new bosses to learn.
Yeah, but I would rather have content that is able to be accomplished by players within a comfortable level of time to have fun with it, than have content that is brutalized, but technically players are progressing on it for longer. So, hey, look, you don't need new stuff as soon. Like, that's not fun.
Right.
I'd rather hit farm sooner, please.
Yeah, like artificially extending the lifespan with tuning or whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, just go back just not even 2 full years, I guess, to Sepulchre, and it was just, okay, here's our weekly, laundry list of Anduin hotfixes. Yeah, and that was a cool fight, but it was just so overtuned for so long, and even after all the changes. I mean, I'm not saying that Emir Drasil's perfectly tuned or whatever, and I'm sure
it's trending in the right direction.
I know a lot of, I'm sure a lot of teams are progressing on it and hitting roadblocks for sure, and I'm not saying that, I don't know. I just feel like Emir Drasil hits that stride a lot better than other raids have. I mean, I thought Aberrus was good for that too. Vault was a nice breath of fresh air after Shadowlands raids, and then I thought Aberrus was better than that. I think Emir Drasil is better than that one.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the space looks cool, the fights look cool, they're fun to do. They read well. It's not like you have to have some real arcane knowledge of what's happening in a fight to understand what you're supposed to be doing. You kind of look at your screen and you just react to it, it feels great. I'm having a great time in there, and I'm looking forward to checking out, just dipping a toe into Mythic and farming some stuff out in Heroic and Normal, and hopefully we start getting some axes soon. That would be fun.
Yeah. Did you want to wrap up your M+ victories this week real quick?
Jeez, Mythic Plus has been so busy. It's unbelievable. This season has just been going great. I've kind of landed with a great group of people to play with. My crew that I would kind of run with weekly throughout a lot of BFA and Shadowlands and into the beginning of this expansion is all gone except for one guy, and he and I still play together, on a scheduled basis for keys. But he also usually only has time to do one after raid, and then I kind of want to do more. And now that, we kind of have the ZTH crew and we have just a lot more interest in the game right now, I'm finding a lot of people who are willing to run, and I think the tuning for the season feels pretty good. So last week, I finished above 2,700 rating and got all of my teleports unlocked. I was running with one of my Resto Shaman buddies, and who was just carrying me through stuff. I know Resto Shaman's not super meta, but neither is Prot Warrior, so we just make it work,
having that extra interrupt is a really big deal in Mythic Plus
huge,
at the moment. So Resto Shamans definitely have a place, not to mention it's a guaranteed heroism, which means that you also have that I can bring a very different variety of DPS because I don't need to have heroism from the DPS side.
Yeah, taking that extra box is awesome. Yeah, and it helps really too with stuff like Throne of the Tides, where you have that on the last boss, you have that distant ad that's casting, I don't have a grip. So, and I've been playing with one of my Resto Druid buddies too, and we've just been grabbing whoever is around. We got a lot of people that we kind of rotated through. One kind of comp we've been running is Prot Warrior and Resto Druid or Resto Shaman, and then a DK and a DH and an Augmentation Evoker. And I have some very high skilled DH players that I play with, and stuff just deletes. It's great. It's really cool. So all my seasonal goals are already done. as of the end of week 4. And then this week, we timed a plus 22 last night. I'm up to 2768 rating. My rating for season 3 is higher than I got to in season 2 already. And I've done like 1920s in time, whereas in season 2 I did 30. So that kind of shows you the interest level in the game right now, I think, as much as anything, because people are willing to run. People are interested in doing stuff. I have like a pool of players that I'm comfortable with pulling from.
I would also add just in here, it's also a better dungeon pool, in my opinion. This is one of the best dungeon pools we have seen.
Yeah, actually, it kind of took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to like this pool as much as I have. Yeah. But I think the tuning is fair. Everything feels pretty good. Like there's stuff that is harder than others. Everbloom is kind of a mess in a couple different ways, and like tyrannical Murazan's Rise. Those bosses can be really punishing in terms of just like throughput requirements, but. Really, I mean, when you look at kind of where you want stuff to feel in the upper teens, low 20s range, I think it came pretty close, like out the gate. They made some adjustments to just make it more fair, in terms of the size of different abilities and stuff. Like, oh, this looks like it's 6 yards, but it actually hits you 8 yards away. Like they cleaned that up. And I don't know, man, I'm having a great time in there. I'm just blazing through aspect crests. I'm getting everything all leveled up. I got my 3 crafted pieces maxed out, and I got a helmet out of Vault this week on the myth track, so I catalyze that for a set piece, and then I dump some aspect crests onto it, and I'm up to like 481 item level, and I'm actually sitting on 60 aspect crests for next week to get my next crafted piece. And then like every time I do a keystone, I just funnel that into whatever my next highest thing is that needs to be upgraded. I got the weapon from Farok last night, the heroic weapon, so that's pretty nice. Not the axe, but like the one-hander that he drops. So I mean, yeah, Dragonflight stuff has been just fantastic, just having a blast and just feeling very rewarded for the time that I'm investing into it, which is the biggest thing. And outside of raid and dungeon, it's like I'm not actually doing that much. You go to Emerald Dream, you have your kind of weekly loop that takes about maybe an hour, to get all that big stuff ticked off. And then like maybe I'll do some world quests here and there, but I don't feel like there's anything I need to get in there and really grind up. I'll grab an alt and do the weekly Emerald Dream stuff, kill the world boss, get those kind of free pieces of gear. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I would spend more time in there if they wanted me to, but I'm pretty happy with like I go pretty hard on raid nights, and then other than that, I'm caught up.
Yeah, the loop is a nice loop. I'm sort of falling behind this past week. Well, the current week that we're in. Typically Tuesday I get everything done in that 1 hour loop you talked about, and then just kind of go, all right, I can do Mythic Plus or whatever it is I want to do. I haven't done that yet. My Tuesday was just a lot busier, and so was my Wednesday, and there was a whole other launch of something that I was participating in with some friends. So I was playing something else on Wednesday night, and so it's certainly something where I'll probably get it in over the next few days. But I wouldn't say that I'm waning on my interest for Dragonflight at the moment. I would just say that my brain has finally realized the immediacy isn't there of, oh my god, I have to get this done on Tuesday. I definitely feel like there's an advantage to doing stuff on Tuesdays and Wednesdays where there's just more people doing it, so you can get it done faster and more efficiently and that kind of thing. But I think I've come to, like, my brain's coming back to the realization of, like, these are weeklies. You have the week. Feel free to knock them out at some point during that time. You don't have to do it right away. It is, World Quest bonus event week, so there is some sort of benefit to doing something on a daily when it comes to getting more renown, if that's something you're working towards. And there was a whole other snafu with renown stuff this week on Twitter, which is something that I don't think we've included in the show notes today, but it's probably going to be a topic at some point, with a boost that you can get for your account. But it is one of those cases to me of I think that it's at a good place. I think the game is at a good place as far as pacing goes, and we'll have to see how things continue in the future. Anything else you want to highlight, or should we jump into what's going on this week?
The only other thing is Season Discovery. I hit 25 like late last week after we recorded. So that was cool. But then I've had like no other time to play, unfortunately. So I'm hoping maybe this weekend, if I get like a little bit of a window, I can maybe I don't know, hop into some dungeons or something, or go get some of the runes I'm missing, or like maybe hop in a BFD. I don't know, but like unfortunately, I just haven't had the time. I don't have unlimited time, and if I did, I would be doing all of this stuff. But I don't know. It feels like more of a lift for me to sit down and be like, okay, now I got to get into SOD mode. What do I need to do? I need to figure out what's next. I need to I need to network with people, and I don't have the infrastructure. We have a DJ's guild over on Wild Growth, but like I don't have like a schedule that I'm playing on, right? So it's a little bit tougher, but I'm hoping this weekend I can maybe start getting into some level 25 endgame stuff. I haven't even done like the PvP event yet or anything. It's just I haven't been able to shift into that mode, and meanwhile Dragonflight, we've just had so much momentum. Everybody's just go go go. So that when I've had an extra night, it's like, well, let's do some 20s or whatever. That's kind of what it's been the last week and a half.
Right. Yeah. It's. I mean, I'm still rating it. We did Monday and Thursday again. So it's been fun. I mean, we get in there, we basically are able to clear the whole place within a 2-hour period. We had some new people this week. There is a DPS check for the second to last boss. The penultimate boss is a DPS check boss. So, it is something where, hey, you either have to have the perfect pull with the group that's not quite as geared, or you just stomp it into the ground because you meet the DPS check and everything feels fine and you just truck through it. So,
right.
That's what it comes down to. They changed that boss like 2 resets ago. It used to be that boss only targeted the melee, and it targeted like the second person who was highest on threat to do this going down to another realm area where you had to kill a bunch of ads. You have a time limit to kill those ads before they all aggro on you and start attacking you. And if the boss transitions into his final phase while you're downstairs, it kills you. And now it's targeting anyone. So every now and then in a group that has 2 healers, because it's a 10-man raid, one of the healers goes down with like your worst geared DPS. And you're like, great, this is now a fail.
Okay,
we just can't
have fun down there.
These 2 people are now dead. No, you can battle your way out if you're part of the earlier group. It just takes a lot longer. And you're like, okay, can your group survive for 25, 30 seconds, 40 seconds on one healer with the damage that's going on? And I kind of wish they change it back to the way it was, because it just now feels bad. It's like it's almost like an RNG factor, because I have had it where I got sent down as a healer with one of our DPS who's not a strong DPS at about like 3% before the boss pushes to the next phase, and everyone just had to like try and freeze and hope the boss didn't tick over and just kill us both. Or we've had people get sent down as the boss pushes, so they get sent down and instantly die, and you're like, this is just like, come on, guys. It's like the timing's important, but
that's kind of funny.
I don't think this boss should be the challenge that it is, and I think the thing that made it a challenge was changing the mechanic to target healers. Like, just stop it.
Yeah, especially in a 10-man environment, right? Like, you're really probably only going to have 2 healers. I mean, that would be a reasonable kind of conclusion.
Yeah.
And what we love to do is to hold DPS. So
yeah.
It's. I mean, we have seen some adjustments, so I don't know. Maybe that's something that they'll adjust. Overall, most of the feedback I've heard about the raid is that it's pretty fun. It feels pretty accessible, so that's awesome. I definitely want to check it out. I gotta figure out how to line up schedules and free time and all the other stuff I have going on.
Yeah, no, it is accessible. It is fun. There are bosses you have to learn. This was fun. It was really fun to walk into this raid totally blind and not know what they did with bosses or how bosses worked, figure all that out just by actually experiencing it and trying it, and then get to the point where now you're on farm and you sort of can... The bosses seem a lot simpler because often your brain overcomplicates a mechanic. It's like, oh yeah, there's this breath that happens on the last boss. We're probably supposed to point that towards all these eggs that are around the room that empower him in the second phase. So we can like blow up the eggs or something. And you're like, no, the breath just happens and you want to not standing it. And the eggs hatch in the second phase and empower them. And that's just how this works. There's no like trick to it. It's literally that.
Like, click on this thing and carry it around. Then you get an extra action button, and then you put the thing that you're carrying near the eggs, and then
there's nothing like you're so trained to Dragonflight raid or modern WoW raid where it's like, well, this can't be just a breath. This has to be a breath with a thing that does a thing, and then the next phase this other thing happens, and you're so trained to that it's like, oh yeah, no, we're like level 25. This should not be this complicated. The penultimate boss is the most complicated boss who sends people downstairs to sleep and all that kind of stuff. That is the most complicated boss, and it is by far the most complicated boss we've ever seen in a classic environment, like prior to Naxxramas, is where we started to see bosses that started to compare to this. So it is definitely a cool fight to learn. It drops a trinket that I got this week, which is kind of neat because trinkets are kind of rare inside the level 25 range.
Yeah, they don't really exist from like questing and stuff. And if you get anything, it's not like it doesn't improve your combat performance.
Well, and they've had some fun with this, right? So I mean, there is a trinket that drops into the raid that's actually a good stat trinket and everything. This particular trinket gives you shadow resist, which is nice because there's a lot of shadow damage in this raid. It's only 5, but it summons a Murloc friend who follows you around. And you can have the buff up 100% of the time. So you just get this Murloc friend who just chills with you all the time. And I'm like, dude, done. It's worth it.
It doesn't matter what else it does at that point. Like, that's a must-have. Yeah.
You got to have your buddy with you the whole time. So, yeah, I dig it. Anyways, let's hop into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft, because we do want to get through, actually, a boss guide inside this week's episode. So we'll get to that. But first, this is what's coming up right now. All right, this week in World of Warcraft is the World Quest bonus event, meaning that there's a quest out there for you to pick up, which allows you to get yourself an even more reputation for basically all the major factions, and this time it's including Lone Niffin and Dreamward. Oh my god, and Dreamwardens. I didn't even look at that part of the quest.
Yep.
That's huge for completing 10 World Quests, and all the reputation gains from World Quests are increased by 50%. So this is your catch-up week. If you're someone who's behind on Renowned, like I am, which is why I think it's hilarious about the whole boost thing that we're not talking about on this episode. We'll make sure it makes it into the next episode when there's been more fallout that's happened around it, I'm sure.
I wonder if we'll get any kind of response. But yeah, I mean, there is a big update to this with this patch, which is that, yes, before this was just the 10.0 factions, but now it's Lone Niffin and Dreamwardens. Yeah. So Lone Niffin really got the short end of the stick here. But hey, you know what? If you never finished that rep, if you didn't play 10.1 very much, you get a free rank for doing 10 World Quests with Lone Niffin. I mean, you do the World Quests with anybody, but you get a free rank with Lone Niffin. And then, you get bonus rep from every World Quest that you do. So this is a great week for that. Yeah. If you haven't finished up Dreamwardens yet, maybe you did play 10.1 and you finished up Lone Niffin, but you didn't finish up Dreamwardens yet. This is a great week to get, again, a free rank and a ton of bonuses and stuff. And
if you do this, you might use with the Dreamwardens.
Like stuff that's relevant to get you into Amir Drasil and Season 3 stuff. Also, again, this stuff becomes account bound if you are max renown. So you can do this on a main and say, hey, my alt would really like a free rank of Dreamwardens renown this week, and off you go. So also a good thing to do on multiple tunes because you have those account-wide rep tokens once you hit max renown.
Yeah. PvP quests for the week are arena skirmishes and rated battlegrounds, and we also now finally have Comp Stomp back and up and running as promised, which is a Arathi Basin with advanced AI as your opponents. So you just get in there, and you smash the computers into the ground, and you then leave, and 3 minutes has passed, and you've gotten a ton of honor and conquest and even reputation towards that faction, if that's something you want. And hey, there you go. You can now basically roll over and go back into Comp Stomp again, and just do that over and over again if that's something you want to do for farm. It's always fun to do. It makes you feel really strong and powerful. It's always an enjoyable experience for me. So yeah, check out Comp Stomp.
Yeah, super fun. Yeah, we had to wait a couple weeks to get it back around, but you can queue into it now, it seems. I mean, it was in my frame the other day, so it is like my favorite brawl. I'm not a PvPer, so being able to do something like this is really cool and worthwhile. Especially if you need conquest, you need honor, or whatever you need just for marks, even if you're just trying to buy, stuff with marks. Yeah, Comp Stomp, just hop in there, get it done, and enjoy yourself. Just become a god of Arathi Basin, right? Just become a warlord of Arathi Basin this week.
Exactly. Orastor the Hibernator is the Rune Bear in Emerald Dream, which is the world boss you can take down, dropping some 441 loot that you certainly might be interested in. This past week, I happened to get my Rune Bear appearance, which made me very happy.
Nice.
So I can now roll around as the Bark Bear, which I enjoy being. So that made
It's
me very
really
happy.
cool.
It is cool.
Like I have like I have the Mage Tower Bear and like one of the variants of the Mage Tower Bear, and so like I usually use that because it's cool to show it off because you can't get it anymore. But like the Rune Bear just
cool,
kind of straight up looks better. Like it's just a better looking version of that basically. So I don't have it yet. But I haven't been doing the World Boss religiously on my Guardian.
Okay.
I got to make sure I start doing it though because I got to unlock that.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I've definitely enjoyed it. So it went on immediately. I put away my white bear from the Mage Tower that I enjoy so much, and then threw on this one. And yeah, it's certainly fun to roll around in. So definitely pick it up. All right, Mythic Plus affixes for the week are Fortified, Entangling, and Bolstering, meaning non-boss enemies have 20% more health and deal increased damage. While in combat, Entangling Vines periodically appear and snare players, and when any non-boss enemy dies, its Death Cry empowers nearby allies, increasing their damage by 20%, which stacks. A Fortified week with Bolstering, always ugly. Always ugly. However, it's not increasing their health anymore with the Bolstering, so, there's just that. Like, that's the one plus about this. Entangling can be a pain, and it can certainly catch players out as far as boss fights, as well as trash. Having to adjust, having to move, choosing to eat the stun. There's decisions to be made around Entangling. It isn't the hardest affix, but it is one that you have to pay attention to regularly. And you can get lost in the middle of combat and end up being stunned and not even realize that you've had Entangling. So some sort of weak or warning is certainly recommended for something like that. You can shapeshift out of it, or use any kind of snare to get rid of Entangling as well, if that's something you want to do. However, just keep in mind that this week with Fortified Bolstering, trash is going to hit very hard, and you're going to be able to build a boss in the sense of build something that can one-shot your tank if you're not being too careful. Places like Everbloom will not be fun when it comes to trash, because it's already heavy trash, and then you throw in the fact that the trash is now hitting very hard from Fortified, and it's hitting even harder because it's getting bolstered by things dying around it. That's same thing with Waycrest Manor. Both of them could be potential issues as far as this goes. But I would say this is like a mediocre Fortified week. This isn't the hardest Fortified week we could see, but it's not the easiest.
I'll go with that. I've seen a lot of people. I'm leaning towards easier, but I'm cruising right now. But again, I'm only doing like 20 into 22 range. So I'm not trying to push. I've seen a lot of grousing online about bolstering this week, and I assume these people must be doing 25s or higher.
Well, and as soon as you're doing keystones that high, keep in mind the pulls are very different. You're pulling substantially more mobs at the same time, and you can definitely have a situation where you accidentally build a boss, or not everything dies at the same time, or something's outside of the group casting, or whatever it is, and that thing becomes, a one-shot machine that you have to be careful about. Now, when a mob is bolstered, you can interrupt it, you can crowd control it.
Yep. Right. It's not like raging, but if a mob has something that you can't interrupt or crowd control, then that's still going to go off, right? It's not like there are things that aren't. This mob isn't stunnable or whatever, and it has something that targets a random person, or it has some kind of volley kind of nuke that you can't interrupt. That could be a big problem. I would say probably avoid Everbloom this week. The Lashers are on death effect eligible, so you will have those big pulls with 10 Lashers in them, and then that's bad news. I straight up haven't done Everbloom this week. I did a couple Waycrest, and I thought it was mostly fine. The one thing about Waycrest is the timer is very forgiving in there, and the runbacks are mostly pretty fast since they opened up all the doors.
Yeah, with all the doors open,
Yeah, so Waycrest is pretty forgiving. You can have some oopsies in there and still time it. I did some Blackrook Hold this week. That was actually a little more challenging, I felt, because there were some packs that are big, and then you have like that arcane elemental that ports around and it explodes, and you got to kill that fast, and everything gets bolstered. Then you get the archers and the rogues that do the blade dance thing, and then your party just starts all dying, and you're like, I don't know what to do.
I was gonna say there's the where you're talking about the rogues who do the blade dance thing. That area, it's very easy to chain pull by accident, and it'd be very easy. It'd be very easy to accidentally bolster the next entire pack that you're getting in combat with.
Yep. Yeah.
So that I could also see a problem there as well. Same thing with the bottom of the stairs, the first boulder run up, that bottom of the stairs run up that has all the little, like, I can't remember what they're called, guys.
The worm tongue guys.
The worm tongue guys. That whole area where people normally pull a ton of stuff at the same time, and then the worm tongue guys like all split off, and one's spinning after your healer, and one's running over here, and that's...
And the other guy's breathing a cone of fire across the
entire hallway,
The non-elite worm tongues are on death eligible, and they do bolster, so you want to pull like all those worm tongues, including the dudes on the left, so you get a nice, route going, and So, I mean, like...
That, I could see that.
There are elements, but I don't now. Also, again, I'm playing keys in the 20 range, so I'm not pushing super high. I'm not trying to, +3 them. Okay, I'm trying to +1 them, and I play very defensively. I have a defensive trinket set up. I have my raid enchant on my helmet, which is very defensive. I'm running around in defensive stance just to buy my healer as much time as possible to make up for my own poor play, basically. So, I feel pretty strong in these cases. I mean, we had a situation in Blackrock Hold. We were doing a 22 or 21. I can't really remember, but it was that room where the Pat, you go up the hallway, you fight the rogue and the bone breaker dudes and all that, and then you fight the 3 guys. The other stuff then jumps down. My entire party died, and I just stood there and sustained out until everybody got back so we could clean up. We lost no damage on that pack, and they, bolstering wore off, and then it was, we had a couple mobs to clean up. So your results may vary. Obviously, I play I would say pretty conservatively in terms of pulls and my overall defensive setup. And I feel like the timers are mostly pretty favorable in this pool. So, I don't know. It seems like, bolstering does make stuff harder. I feel like, it used to be, necrotic was the poster child affix that we needed removed. And it seems like we always, the community just fixates on an affix that has to go and kind of complains until Blizzard does something about it. And really, you're hearing that beating drum for like, we don't want affixes in Mythic Plus, and I'm on the fence on that one. I like them. I like the way it adds variety to the gameplay. I think there's a big difference between good and bad affixes, and I think everything is on the table for tuning. I don't think bolstering's a bad affix, but it does potentially cap how high you can push a key up. And so if your goal is to, push up, 25 or higher, push up to 30, whatever, you're trying to push like some huge rating number for the season, then bolstering week is gonna be a speed break on that for sure. So I don't play the game that way, so I've found this week to be easy. I mean, I've timed 720s or higher so far this week, and I mean focusing on non-Everbloom dungeons, but still I think it's a good week.
Yeah, I think overall people will probably do okay. I think, as you said, this might be a couple dungeons and a couple packs you got to change up your route or avoid in general. So we'll see how that all plays out for everybody. All right, Feast of Wintervale is kicking off on the 16th. That's this Saturday. It's going to run until the 2nd of January. So Feast of Wintervale is going to be another great opportunity for you to earn that Traveler's Log stuff for December, if that's what you're wanting to get done. There'll be a ton of it to do up front, and then there'll probably be stuff to do actually around opening gifts and getting the new gift, and that kind of thing will probably all happen. There'll be more of that you can earn. I think this is a great opportunity for folks to sort of catch up. Not to mention, remember, the last week of the month is always their catch-up week, where they add in a whole bunch of other additional rewards, which you can actually see in advance if that's something you want to participate in. And I imagine some of those might also have to do with Feast of Wintervale. I'm curious. It's going to be an interesting sort of run-up, because you're then going to have the New Year's celebrations on the 31st, and whether or not that rolls over into the 1st, because there's stuff that happens on the 1st. So is the January Traveler's Log going to have Watch the Fireworks as part of its whole thing? Probably. So
maybe, yeah.
There could be something on the actual 1st of January for you to get out and do before the event officially ends for the New Year's celebration event, which is going to kick off towards obviously on the 31st. So just be ready for that as well. And we'll mention it again, in a couple weeks when actually we get really close to it. But it's just something to keep in mind in the back of your head that, there's a bunch of Traveler's Log to be earned. And if you haven't, gotten out there and gotten your Wintervale gifts, then be sure that you take, precautions to do that. If you haven't gotten your, there's the Grinchling, what's it called?
Mechanical Greench.
Mechanical Greench, but then there's also the big snow yeti mount.
The one you get from the snow globe thing. That was really hard to do the first year because everybody was doing it, but now everybody has it or forgot it's there, so now it's easy to do.
And then there's Warlords of Draenor rewards too, because Warlords had a mount.
There's stuff out in Warlords. Yeah. There's one of those abominable. It's like a Gronling, but it looks like it looks like an abominable snowman. I forget exactly what it's called, but there's stuff to do out there.
Yeah,
we know there's going to be new stuff. Like we got that big holiday refresh this year, so this is our first Winter Veil since we've had that. There's going to be like great customizations and stuff, but we haven't seen it in game yet, so we don't have the full details to talk about what to actually do. Right. That'll be next week once we get a chance to look at it. But I mean, this is our first Winter Veil since then, and Winter Veil is a big event. It lasts a long time. There's a ton of stuff to collect and a ton of stuff to do. It's really fun. So overall I like what they've done with the holiday refreshes that we've seen. I mean, I thought Halazen added some nice stuff. Brewfest added some nice stuff. So I suspect that this will be the same.
I will also say keep your eye out on Season of Discovery, because there may be Winter Veil in Season of Discovery as well for you to participate in, because it was one of those events that kicked off very early on in WoW's lifespan. And it wouldn't surprise me if it came around, because we were all surprised when Dark Moon Fair was a thing this past week inside Season of Discovery, and you could actually get a 14-slot bag through Dark Moon Fair, which is a big deal back in those days, because it's...
that's like S tier, yeah.
So be sure that you keep your eye out for Winter Veil stuff potentially kicking off inside Season of Discovery as well for folks over there. All right, notable hot fixes for the week. We got some class fixes for Paladin and Rogue and Warlock. None of them are ridiculously huge and massive. Things like Retribution, the Blessed Champion rebuilt to resolve issues such as pulling enemies from too far away or through walls. So if you were someone who was using Blessed Champion and pulling stuff through walls, they've gone in and fixed that sort of stuff. But there wasn't like, hey, this got nerfed by a bunch or this got buffed by a bunch. It's just class fixes as far as things that went
fixes,
in. So that's just bug fixes for classes. So if you're curious about what might have happened if you're a Paladin, Rogue, or Warlock, check out the notes. You can find those pretty easily. As far as the raid...
If you are a Ret Paladin wanting to do Waycrest Manor, you're in luck.
Yes.
Because now you can do it without pulling the whole stuff. Everything through all the walls and floors and everything.
Exactly. So speaking of dungeons, we now know that Blackrook Hold, they addressed an issue with the Fell Vomit where the line didn't visually attach to players. I actually experienced this. This was a very strange thing. So I was glad that they resolved that issue. In Darkheart Thicket, they updated Rotheart's Keeper's Vial blast radius to match the size of the Vile Mushroom. Again, great to have something where the actual size of something matches the visual for something. So you're not getting hit by it.
Those mushrooms are like one shot or maybe two shot, especially on like a Fort Week. Yep. They were affecting a larger area than the graphics. So you'd be standing next to the mushroom and thinking, I'm safe, and then you would die because it was actually an 8-yard radius. So thank you for fixing that. Yeah, and then a similar kind of thing. They updated the model used by Ink of Ozumat to reduce the visual base the visual effects at its base. So another sort of visual effect getting tuned to sort of help people out with that one. So this is huge. Some people were using a weak aura or something to like alter the way the boss looked. I don't know how that really worked, but it was really hard to tell what was the safe space near the boss and what was the stuff you had to clean up and what was the no spot underneath the boss. They kind of just shut off a bunch of that inky, pulsating effect, and so now much cleaner on the floor to understand. Okay, I stand here. This stuff goes there. We clean this up and then we rotate around, and much appreciated. I think that boss is way better now.
Yeah. Smolder on. This might have helped you guys out. They fixed an issue where players would sometime gain multiple stacks of Ignite Essence from one Living Flame as opposed to only getting the one stack. So perhaps people not getting...
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you don't want any of that. Yeah. You don't want... You want what you're supposed to get, not more than that.
Yeah. They fixed an issue on Mythic difficulty where Seeking Inferno could explode twice as opposed to just the one time. So that's good. Again, you just want these things going off once, not twice.
Smolderon really trying to compensate for not being as cool as Ragnaros.
Apparently.
It's like just pulling out all the stops. Like, okay, all my stuff's just going to hit twice then.
Yeah, they went through Tyndall Sage Swift as well, and the Fire Beam number of beams spawned per pulse was reduced to 6 from 8. They also made the Lingering Cinders duration reduced to 2 seconds from 3. The pulsing heat damage is reduced by 33%. They addressed an issue where Mass Entangle could fail to root tank players. So, hey, heads up, tank players, you might need some escapes or some blessings from Hands of Freedom helping you out there. They also addressed a performance issue that caused the server delay at the start of the encounter. So if you notice some weird hiccup and then suddenly the fight would begin, Sylvanas had this back too, where you'd pull the boss and the first 8 or 10 seconds would just be frozen, and then suddenly you'd be caught back up again. And then they did... Yeah.
This wasn't that bad, but it would hitch and it would be really weird because you'd be expecting the boss to do something and everybody be playing, but the boss is just kind of waiting.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was nice. Something about bosses in outdoor rooms with multiple platforms, maybe. But yeah, Tindral fixes feel really good. The fire beam change is nice, and the pulsing heat damage reduction, really nice. So this was one of those deals where we killed it on heroic and then it immediately got nerfed, which we always joke about, right? Once we can do it, then that means it's time to nerf it, I guess. I don't know. We're the gatekeepers for some reason. It's just how it works out. But yeah, Tindral's the fight we've probably seen fixed the most so far, and it does have a lot going on, so it kind of makes sense. But overall, I don't think it's too bad on the non-mythic difficulties, so it was a concern, because you have the flying portion and all that, and you have all these all these mechanics layered on top of each other. But I think overall it came out okay, compared to Anduin or something, which was the hotfix king of Sepulchre and maybe of all time.
Yeah.
If Tindral's going to be the hotfixed boss here the most, then it's already in better shape.
True. All right, item-wise, we actually have some meaningful item fixes here. One of them, actually, I experienced this. They fixed an issue where the large renown bag of Dragonel supplies just could have a Dream Warden's tabard in it. I just got it. It was the weirdest thing to open a bag and just get a tabard and be like, what? Okay.
I got a couple tabards out of a couple bags last week. They were just handing tabards out everywhere last week. Yeah.
I didn't know what was up with that, but yeah, that happened. The Ashes of Embersoul will now reset when a raid encounter ends. So, heads up, your stuff's working, but your trinket's working better for that. Or it's working better now.
It's a trinket. It just wasn't resetting. Yeah.
Yeah. The Ember of Nullification is now an eligible item for agility and strength specialization. So you can now roll need on that if you want it. The spiked counterweight damage has been increased by 20%. The Zertax unhatched egg sac summons is now affected by secondary stats, which is huge. So keep that in mind. Worm's Bountiful Chest can now be purchased from Archdruid Hamel Rune Totem as intended. As the Nature's Cradle should now work on renown items purchased from Moon Priestess Lasara. And Nature's Cradle should now work on Dream Warden's renown items that were converted at the Catalyst. So
your Nature's Cradle is your socket consumable for Season 3.
Yeah.
So if you were having trouble, if you bought one, if you already had such a bad vault that you went and got a socket, first of all, I'm sorry.
A lot of people
and second of all, then you've had the insult to injury where you can't apply it to an item. You should check again because it should work now.
Exactly. Incandescent Essence will now soulbound when used. It is no longer usable on account-bound items, and its effects will only trigger for level 70 characters. This is the Helm enchant.
Yes.
And this was usable on heirloom items.
Yes. This is a fun detected one. Come on, Blizz.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it makes sense. But yeah, that was kind of funny there for a couple days. I guess just a day. I don't know. This is the item that you get for getting 50 of the drops from raid bosses, and then you turn it in and you get an item, which you can reuse. It's sort of like an augment rune, but what it does is it applies an enchant to your helmet, and it changes based on what your active spec is. It's a decently powerful effect. It's like 2% DPS upgrade in most cases, just for clicking a button one time for your helmet. But yeah, it was not interacting correctly with many items, and they only want this to work on max level helmets. So there you go.
Yep. That all got fixed and changed up, so keep that in mind. All right, Blue Posts. The Burden of Unrelenting Justice transmog set has been something that came up here, and they did a little blue post about it. This is actually probably one of the coolest transmog sets that they were throwing out there for folks. It's been nearly a year since T&W, which is Tawny and Wilder, and the Zenshiri Trade Post have been supplying a variety of delightful mounts, pets, toys, and transmogs to the citizens of Azeroth to celebrate players who earned the monthly special reward from the trading post 12 times. In other words, if you never missed it, you get the achievement Trading Post Enthusiast, along with a new shifting color transmog, the Burden of Unrelenting Justice transmog set. This is the Warden's set. Basically, if you've ever seen a Warden from World of Warcraft Night Elf race, it is that transmog set, and it is green and gold as you'd expect it to be. And when it becomes nighttime, it actually shifts into being white and purple, which is phenomenal and cool, and says a lot about what we can potentially see in the future when it comes to transmogs and things like that. So awesome transmog set. Really curious about what it looks like on male characters, because we've only ever seen female characters in this set. So let's see what happens with this thing.
Yeah, put it on the Coltiran male.
Oh, Tauren.
Or a Tauren
male.
Tauren. Yeah,
that's what I want to see. Yeah.
I mean, this design is incredible. It's the Warden design from like Warcraft 3 is sort of the first place that we saw it. And one of the things that always made me think that Night Elves were cool, just really captured my imagination from the beginning. And this is a really cool representation of it. Couple, points of contention or controversy here. I think the fact that it changes colors is cool, but it sucks that you don't have the option, right? Like, you should get 3 sets for this. You should be able to have the green and gold one if you want it. You should be able to have the white and purplish one if you want it, and then you should have one that changes colors, I think. I don't like the fact that it looks one way during the daytime and one time during the nighttime. I guess it makes it match that mount that we got back when. Was that like the first bonus reward that we got? Was the Panther mount that would it changes colors on time of day? It was one of the early ones, if not the first. And so like it matches that, so that's cool theming. But we're entitled WoW players. We want everything. We literally want to have our cake and eat it too. So I don't know. I guess for me, I would prefer to have the option to pick one or the other and not have it just change based on time of day. Maybe they'll add something in later. I would think that there will probably be some grousing about the fact that you have to do 12 months of trading posts in a row, not total. You have to sub for an entire year straight and play for an entire year straight and get all of the stuff, and then you get this. And they didn't say anything about that. Like, they kind of mentioned it. They
clarified it, right? They said, don't worry if January isn't your month and you come up a little short. You don't need to earn the special reward 12 times consecutively to get the achievement and the transmog set. You'll be able to continue to work your way towards collecting the set beyond the month of January. So they actually end the post with that, which means that you don't have to worry. The people who are getting it right now are just the people who actually started doing this 12 months ago, because it's been 12 months of rewards. So now we're going to be it will be 12 months of rewards once January rolls around, which means that now we'll be moving into the next. So if you missed a month or missed 2 months, whatever it is, your month just gets pushed back by that amount, and then you get it. It's the actual achievement that unlocks this is just for earning the reward 12 times. So I cool down, folks who are potentially worried.
That's good. Yeah. Because earlier in the post it sounds like it's a bit. I guess it's a bit confusing.
Absolutely. If you read the first half, it is written in a way that makes you think that if I don't do 12 consecutive months of World of Warcraft, then I don't get this, which feels terrible. Or, hey, I didn't know they were going to do this reward, and now they have, and now I feel bad because I missed 1 month or whatever, right? Which, FYI, is how I felt when they did the orc statues and sent the orc statues out to everyone.
Not the 10th anniversary orc statues. Oh, let's never speak of that again.
It was honestly, in my opinion, a terrible, terrible decision to do those. It just created controversy. That's all it did. I appreciate what they wanted to do, but there are a lot of people out there who missed a month or missed 2 months or had a financial crisis for one point in their life and weren't able to pay for it or to play for a month, and literally in that situation didn't get a statue because of it, yet were no less loyal and no less there for that period of time, right? I
missed a lot of months back then, so for me, I can't. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody who missed a month and then didn't get a statue. This is way lower stakes.
This is much more forgiving. I agree.
And you can still get it. I have one weird edge case I'm curious about though, because a buddy of mine, my co-tank, he just like ignores this, but he does, like, he plays enough and we raid enough and everything that I'm sure he fills up the bar every month, but like he doesn't
probably has
typically,
like 12,000 currency sitting inside his chest.
yeah, like he just doesn't go back to Stormwind to like open the box and get the monthly reward. So like, I wonder if he's,
oh, they're all in
we'll
there.
never know because he'll never go back to do it. But
I'm
like,
sure
I wonder if he'll be able to claim this, or if there will be some hiccup because he wasn't claiming them monthly or whatever.
I don't know.
I guess we'll find out. Luckily, he won't care, especially because he likes to transmog himself to look as ridiculous as possible. Like he wants to look like a PC leveling toon on purpose, so he would never wear a full set anyway.
Right. All right, next post up, we had solo shuffle rating gap adjustments. This is from Kyvax, who says, at the beginning of Dragonflight Season 3, we reduced the maximum rating gap healers could have in solo shuffle across all ratings based on feedback we received. We've seen that this resulted in long queue times at higher ratings. To help this, about a week ago, we increased the rating gap moderately, but only at higher ratings to best preserve matchmaking to the entirety of the ladder. We've been watching the results of the changes like that, and we will, changes like that, interesting. We're watching the results of changes like that. It's one specific change. I don't know why they phrased it that way. And we'll continue to watch all of these issues very carefully so that we can make surgical changes whenever necessary. So yeah, if you were a healer and suddenly your queue times got better, actually your queue times would get worse, I suppose, potentially, because there'd be more competition. If you weren't a healer and your queue times got better, this is why. So just a heads up on that.
I think this mostly affects like the very high end, because it was apparently really hard because of the minimal gap allowance between rating for healers. It just resulted in extraordinarily long queue times high on solo shuffle ladder. So it should relieve that a bit. I mean, the overall post that Kyvax was responding to was sort of about like the current state of PvP and sort of, the pain points that people are feeling. Most of those Randy didn't address here, but he did mention like the matchmaking thing. They are, putting some fixes in to try to take a little bit of pressure off and at least let people get into some more games. Yeah,
I know a lot of people who queue up for solo shuffle immediately upon logging in and then go off and do, rated battlegrounds or whatever else it is, because eventually they'll get their queue.
Or you do some chores or something.
Right? Yeah. We have tons of time. All right, Season of Discovery changes to PvP. This came on December 7th from Bornak. Says, when a character makes any hostile action against an opposing faction, like lieutenants, keepers of the grove, or blade masters, or faction leaders in various objective areas, they will receive reputation when that enemy dies. So just a heads up. It must be an offensive action, like a harmful spell, harmful ability, melee attack, or ranged attack, against an enemy to receive reputation. This also affects healers, who must use an offensive action against these things. So if you're somebody who's trying to get rep, be sure that you are actually tagging one of these leaders. I don't really know how this works in Season of Discovery, because these would be level 60 mobs. I don't know how they're doing that necessarily.
I don't know what level they're considered. I mean,
I'm talking about faction leaders, because the Keepers of the Grove and Blade Masters aren't. They're probably 32 or 33 or something. So those are in fact able to be killed by groups. But I maybe they just included faction leaders, or it's something I haven't come across yet. Feel free to poke us inside the Discord or whatnot if you've gone and killed a faction leader on Season of Discovery, because I'm curious.
I think they just mean the leader inside the PvP event, the general or whatever, that you have to kill to win the PvP event. Yeah, not like go kill Thrall.
That's what I was thinking. Like I was picturing going out in open world. I was like, man, that's all 60. Like the guards are 60. It's all 60. Like.
That's pretty hardcore, man. Just start doing that. This is just, I believe these are changes just for the Ashenvale PvP event specifically. So you have to kill the lieutenants off to summon the leader, whatever you want to call it, the general or whatever. So, if you're out there healing, make sure that you tag the enemy NPCs with offensive spells, even if you're healing people, in order to make sure that you get credit.
Yep. Characters will receive reputation even if they are dead or no longer nearby, as long as they are still in the zone when the enemy dies. Characters receive 200 reputation for killing the lieutenant, and all members of the winning faction receives 200 reputation when the faction leader dies. The winning team also receives 100 reputation per friendly lieutenant remaining. So just keep that in mind. You can get a ton of reputation out of this whole thing. The trainees Sentinel Night Saber and trainees Outrider Wolf will now require friendly reputation with the Silver Wing Sentinels and Warsong Outriders, respectively. It was previously honored. And players have 60 minutes to complete the Ashenvale PvP event, up from 30. So a lot more time to actually get in there and participate in the event. That's probably due to, I imagine, drop off of people in that zone. So this gives more time for more people to get in there and hop into the event itself, which I think is overall good.
Yeah, very cool.
This event to me it's a cool event. I haven't actually participated all the way through yet, but I've hopped in here and then had to take off and do something else. And it's neat. It's just not why I'm playing Season of Discovery, so it just doesn't keep me or interest me that much, to be honest. PvP and at level 25 just isn't my thing. It just isn't why I'm doing any of this. So,
Yeah, I feel like I got to get in here just to get the mount and everything, and it seems like a pretty low bar to get to friendly rep and everything. So I got to start. I want to start putting some time into this and check it out and see how it kind of flows and get some reward out of it. I just haven't, like I said at the top, I haven't been in that mode this week. I wish I could be in both modes at once, but life interferes.
I think the thing that kills me about the mount and why I'm just not in a big drive to get it is it only works in Ashen Vale, and there's a quest that gives you a portal to the raid from Astronar. So you can actually you never need it to get to the raid quickly, and you only use it in Ashen Vale to ride around. So unless you're doing the PvP event regularly, I don't see a big drive for players, or at least not for me, to get it. If this mount worked elsewhere, then obviously everyone would be trying to get their mount. It's just when it's literally a mount for the PvP event, it's like it's just not
gives
really
you a big,
my thing.
Mining advantage
In that one zone.
Just be doing laps all day, making coin. That's what it's all about, man.
Sure, yeah. Recent actions against exploited players. This is our November update from Kaivax. The total exploitive WoW accounts in November 2023 were 197,455. All of these actions were for cheating or exploitation, which resulted in permanent bans or 6-month suspensions. This number does not include other actions taken against accounts with character name or in-game language violations. They continue to, evolve their methods to act on these malicious accounts on a daily basis. Yeah, that's 6,582 actions a day. So they were basically banning 6,500 people every day for either 6 months or a permanent ban, or accounts at least, all throughout November. If you don't think the population of World of Warcraft is large, I don't know what game you're playing, because holy crap. I mean,
that's, that's the... And again, I'm sure we're seeing waves of new bot activity in Season Discovery and everything. And it's just ban the bots is easy to say, but they do ban a lot of bots. It's just it's a never ending battle, man. That is an endless tide that they're trying to stem as best they can, and it's funny. I'm glad they report on this stuff because it's interesting to think about. And I mean, that's just there's got to be a lot of human element there, right, to identify which accounts are being banned and why and stuff. I mean, I'm sure they have tools to there's no way you could have a team of individual people doing this by hand 6,500 times a day, but still you do. I'm sure they have people reviewing it and making sure that the correct accounts are getting banned for the correct reasons and everything. I mean, that's so much activity. It's kind of mind-boggling.
All right, PTR development notes. Balameth, the Night Elf city. Many Night Elves are now starting to arrive in Balameth and Balinor Harbor. They are settling in, and in addition, there's new hubs and areas to explore, and islands, and Night Elf cosmetic treasures, and all sorts of stuff that got added in there. There's also the Azerothian archives that's now going to be available for testing in the public realm. The scenario, The Big Dig, Trader's Rest, is something that you can check out. The dragon riding worldwide stuff is now available, so you can now dragon ride everywhere. They actually increased the outdoor speed to 85%, up from 80% of dragon riding inside old world areas. So you feel free to check that out. Yeah, man,
that's nice. I guess they figured they have a little bit more tolerance than they were afraid of. Maybe. I mean, we talked about it before when they kind of announced, okay, you're going to be able to dragon ride, but it's not going to be as fast. It's well, there's got to be tech and gameplay reasons for that, right? Something has to be breaking, but I guess they figured they could go 85, so that's good.
Yep.
A little bit faster. I'm sure it's going to be plenty fast enough for most of the old world zones.
Yep. There are some class updates, but we're not going to dig into them just because stuff continues to develop and change, and there's no real reason to highlight them right now. If you're someone who's actively doing PTR, check out the notes to see what's happening with classes. Nothing major as of yet.
A lot of it is like renaming the Covenant abilities from Shadowlands. Like we're getting the visual updates, and so now we're getting some stuff renamed. You know, like I'm sure there'll be some class tuning and stuff that ships. Because why wouldn't you when you have the opportunity to do a patch? But I mean that was the biggest thing I think that we saw was just like renames.
Yeah. The Trading Post catalog now displays a list of all items included in a bundle. Each item is a clickable button that will preview it on your character, and multiple items can be selected to preview together if they occupy different slots. So kind of a neat concept of like, hey, do you want to see what an entire transmog looks like if we sell all the pieces individually or part of a bundle? Or, you know, with one piece on or one piece off, whatever it is. They're just sort of working on that user interface, which I think is good to see. So, you know, nice to see that as well. Okay.
That's good. Yeah. I've definitely had a little buyer's remorse with Trading Post stuff where it's like, I think I'm getting more than I'm getting or whatever. So, yeah, that's good. It should show you exactly what you're getting when you spend the limited currency that you get for it.
Exactly. All right, Jason, we are going to dig into another raid boss this week. Volcoross is on the chopping block. It is said that Volcoross, the lava serpent, is so vast that no creature has lived long enough to see him in his entirety. This gargantuan viper coils himself around the Emerald Dream to devour it whole. Wow. Okay. What does this room look like, Jason? Let's talk about room layout.
Well, this room is like a big circular arena with sort of like a stone or like metal looking donut that's like surrounded by lava. So you stand on this stone ring that is surrounded everywhere else, like in the middle and on the outside by these lava pools. And, the boss appears in the middle, got a really big hitbox, and you have to make sure that you don't have anything lying on the ground or anything when you finish off the trash in its room so that you don't insta-pull it when it actually, summons from the trash dying.
As far as tank mechanics go for this, what's something that you should focus on for tank mechanics?
Oh, well, Volcoross is fun because it's one of the most tank-wrecking tank wreckers I think that we've kind of seen in a while. It's okay now that we've had a chance to gear up a little bit, but the first week, in like season 2 gear, it was shocking at how hard that we were getting hit by Volcoross. But there's 2 things you need to know about, how your tanks need to work together. The first thing is Molten Venom, which is just always going to be stacking up on the current aggro target. The melee attacks stack up Molten Venom. It does fire damage every 1 second. It's a 1 second tick of fire damage, and it increases damage taken from Cataclysm Jaws by 50% for 20 seconds. You cannot afford to take 50% increased damage from Cataclysm Jaws in most circumstances. So what you want to do is have your tanks, your positioning doesn't really matter in relation to each other. It's not like a Saber Lash thing like we had with Agira. There's no real like frontal on this boss. So, but what you need to make sure that if tank A is tanking the boss actively and has Molten Venom stacks, that tank B has no Molten Venom stacks and is ready to taunt right when Cataclysm Jaws is about to cast. Now, the boss will swap targets like during the cast, so you can wait until the cast starts and then taunt. What I usually do is I'm usually the initial aggro target, so I'm getting swapped off of and just hoping that nothing weird happens with the taunt and that I don't die. He has an ability we'll talk about a little bit later called Volcanic Disgorge, which is kind of like a long channel of lava going out across the platform. And then right after that, he does Cataclysm Jaws. So usually I'll taunt as I'm repositioning from that mechanic just to make sure that everybody has time for that to go off. But part of this fight, which maybe I should have mentioned to begin with, is like you need to use the whole platform, and the platform's going to fill up with lava, right? There's this thing called Flood of the Firelands. It's going to fill up the arena over time. So now again, you have this kind of donut that you're running along, right? You need to split the raid in half, and one half goes left and one half goes right. Again, the positioning doesn't matter super a lot, and like the DPS split doesn't matter because it's a single target fight. So you just have to make sure that you kind of want to have a tank and some healers in each group just to make sure that you have coverage for everything. So, I'll go one way, my co-tank goes the other way, and then somebody is stacking Molten Venom up from the boss's melee swings, and then we're watching timers. Cataclysm Jaws is about to go out, and then we taunt swap for Cataclysm Jaws, load up some kind of defensive, survive the hit, and then keep rolling. Now you're the Molten Venom target, that's stacking up on you, and then your buddy swaps off of you when Cataclysm Jaws goes out again.
Yeah, so Flood of the Firelands is a mechanic that when the boss actually hits 100 energy, you get these two pools that need to be soaked by half the rate each, basically, which is what you're describing, that leave behind a puddle on the ground. So this is kind of your, like, as you said, spread it, well, it'll group up into your two separate groups, but then the raid kind of gets split and spreads around the room as these mechanics happen. So that's Flood of the Firelands as a mechanic. Serpent's Fury is another mechanic we're going to talk about, which is at the start of the fight, and after each Flood of the Firelands, Volcoross channels and deals heavy damage to the raid for 5 seconds. At the end, Volcoross applies Coiling Flames to several players who are marked by a circle. These targeted players need to be quickly spread out from everyone else inside the raid group. So basically, you have a big healing intensive phase or ability where heals need to be pumped out on people, and then a bunch of people get circles, and obviously the amount of people who get circles varies on raid size. They need to move out of the group and spread out. They can overlap their circles, but they don't want to overlap each other, and then explode, and you're fine. That's Serpent's Fury that's going to take place.
Yep. So one thing on positioning, this is positioning is important here, but it's easy to do. I would say, like, this is not a Smolderon fight, which we'll talk about on a future episode. But what you kind of want to do is keep the groups tight, right? Like, you have your split, you have your 50-50 split, basically. Everybody has their assignment for which direction you're going in, but you want to stay kind of close together. For one thing, that'll keep you in good position to soak Flood of the Firelands. And also, with the knockback on that, I recommend positioning your back towards the direction that you want to go, because then you're not going to get disoriented. You'll be right where you wanted to land, and then everybody will be grouped up for, the damage that the boss does right after that mechanic. Now, if you keep it tight, right, once Serpent's Fury starts going out, the people that have Coiling Flames can quickly get farther out to the side that they're assigned to. They can get to the back of the group, whatever. The group being tight makes it easier for them to be out of the group, right? If everybody's everywhere, then there's nowhere to go that you're not going to be clipping somebody with that circle debuff. So keep it tight. Use as much of the room as you can. Hug up against the lava that's already down, and give people like an easy target to go with their debuff to get out of the way, and then you'll take less damage overall.
Coiling Flames is the next thing to pay attention to, where a few players are marked with a circle for 12 seconds. This is a different circle. This circle involves an inner couple of flames that like spiral around your character, so it does look different than the other red circle that you just ran out of the group. So keep that in mind. And they're targeted with this, and the circles slowly shrink and deal increased damage. When Coiling Flame expires, it jumps to a new player, and they all fade before the next Fire of the Blood. So basically, this keeps the 3 people who had to move out of your group for Serpent's Fury get Coiling Flames, and then have to basically do a dance with each other on their own, where it keeps bouncing between them, or if they want to swap it out to other players, those other players have to step out and absorb this ability, so that this keeps bouncing around to different people to keep people alive, if that's something you want to do. I'm sure on higher difficulties there is a debuff applied by this that factors into forcing other players to do it. I haven't looked at the myth mechanics for this fight yet, but I imagine that is probably one of them.
Yeah, this all goes out at once. Like, Serpent's Fury goes out, and then so it's everybody's taking like pulsating fire damage, and then the Coiling Flames goes on the players, and those players just need to stand out, basically. It's weird because it kind of it ramps up, but then like the damage ramps, but the circle gets smaller. It's kind of a different mechanic in that regard, but yeah, the basic idea is just get these away from the group, keep the group tight to make it easy to do that.
Yeah. Okay, Scorched Tail Crash. This is probably one of the cooler abilities that they've done on a fight. The giant serpent raises its enormous tail on the outside of the donut and slams it towards the inside of the donut. And you see a big shadow appear and raise across the platform, which isn't super easy and obvious to see. So like, you do have to be paying attention for this. So having some sort of call out or weak aura to track this or boss mod would be good. It then slams the platform, and it causes these like rippling waves, which also look very cool, to roll outwards from it that you have to dodge. So the whole raid, basically, this is the like, hey, while you're doing everything else, just keep an eye out for that tail that's sneaking up behind you the whole time. Also, it's a great way to really mess up your camera point of view when it appears directly where your camera is and makes your whole camera just go blind to what's happening and freak out because this giant thing is racing in front of it. So just keep that in mind. It's a cool ability. Gotta dodge this.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of, if you played the Nyalotha, it's reminiscent to the tentacle smashes that N'Zoth would do.
Yeah.
But you only get one of them at a time. It is more forgiving. You only get one at a time. But yeah, there's no hard edge on it. You just got to look for the shadow on the platform, which can be a little obscured, especially when there's other fire and stuff down. It is very deadly. There's pretty much no wiggle room here. So it's a simple ask, I think, to just strafe out of it. But if you don't, you will probably die.
Right.
And they're on LFR and on normal, it's pretty much that straightforward. Don't stand in it. You will take some damage, just like raid-wide damage when it lands, but like there's nothing you can do about that. But there is a little modifier on heroic, which is Tidal Blaze, where there's like 3 lines on either side of the tail that shoot fireballs out, like Super Mario style. So just make sure you're in between them. Don't get hit with them. They do hurt. And if you are like really not paying attention to it, I could see you getting killed by this, especially if you catch a couple of them in a row. I think it shoots like each of the lines shoots 3 fireballs or something. So, you know, if you're not paying attention, you can like walk through them. They don't move that fast, right? So don't ignore your positioning. But
yeah.
Again, the boss's hitbox is massive. So what I usually do is like I set up behind where the first one comes in, and then I have plenty of room between the first and second one from going from the inside out, and I can still melee the boss from there and everything. I'm visually I'm kind of far away from the boss, but you can melee it from really far away on your screen.
Yeah. Okay, so you might think this entire fight is literally like just like a soft enrage when the platform fills. It's not. There's another ability called Volcanic Disgorge, which basically he spits out a bunch of lava. This is swirlies. The swirlies are going to leave lava on the actual ground, and they take up more space. It's an addition to the early ability that leaves lava on the ground and takes up space. So, yeah, it's pretty safe to say that you are dealing with a fight that is going to be about managing space properly. They are going to target players when they do the spit. So having players stand near lava, so you're dropping lava in your lava, so you're not actually taking up more space, is good. However, Serpent's Wrath is the hard enrage. So basically, shortly after the 4th time that you see Flood of the Firelands, the entire platform is filled with lava, and basically everyone just starts taking lethal raid damage and it wipes you. So, yes, managing space is important. What's more important is killing the boss before you hit the 4th Flood of the Firelands. So... yeah. You know, I would not sacrifice damage on this fight for, oh, that's in a bad spot or that's not in a great spot. As long as you don't have people basically standing in a line and dropping these swirlies in a line so that you can't dodge anything because you have this line of lava to your left and a line of lava to your right, you're doing okay. You can weave your way through this. It's not terrible. I would say that these circles, you don't want to drop near the boss because, hey, melee's a thing, and it's kind of a mean move to just drop lava circles all over wherever the melee want to stand. It is better to drop them farther back where ranged have more mobility. It is better to drop them near each other if you can. But this fight is one of those, hey, you have to kill the boss before he does this ability 4 times, so be sure you have the DPS to do that. And until your team actually does have that damage, you'll want to, I guess, you know, be a little bit more lenient with where people are dropping things like this in favor of more DPS.
Yeah, I mean, this fight's definitely a race. You're definitely right. You have like kind of a hard enrage or like a hard stop on this fight. I found the tuning on normal and heroic to be pretty favorable. I mean, it's like the 3rd boss most teams are going to do. So it's not, you know, super punishing or anything. It's not a huge throughput check, but you do have to kill the boss before you run out of space. Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is on point. Like, if something is somewhere it doesn't really belong, like, just deal with it and keep rolling and kill the boss. It's not ultimately that important because if the boss dies, it doesn't matter if, you know, how much space you had left. Just kill the boss, right? And My biggest advice is just keeping the group tight, because then you bait everything. You can bait lava near existing lava. You have a clear path to move through. You have room for people with coiling flames to hang out in, and then everybody's happy. So overall, I mean, this is a visually super cool boss. Pretty straightforward. It's fun because it has some testing mechanics. It is going to hit your tanks hard. It does have the potential to kill people who aren't really paying attention to positioning or whatever. But it doesn't ask a whole lot of the team, even for a fight that requires like a group split. It's easy to manage from a raid leader perspective because it's single target. So, I think this is a really cool early boss. It just sets a great tone for, some of the fire themed bosses that we fight in here. And it's approachable. It's just a cool big monster to go kill. And it's fun managing kind of the tank wrecking abilities and stuff.
I think it's a great early boss because I like bosses that are DPS races that aren't super punishing. I can think of a particular one that everyone got stuck on for months and killed a lot of raid teams. So when they're done well, it's good to see that a boss like this can be thrown into a raid as one of the early bosses that people see, because the mechanics aren't super complicated. Like, the biggest thing that you have to manage is the jumping fire debuff, which really is, hey, move out of the group and live over there. And if you need to have people swap out, depending on difficulty, have people swap out. But outside of that, it's just don't stand in fire and try and drop fire in your fire and do damage, right? And a really cool room with a cool looking boss. I think that's a great early boss. I think it's well done. So I'm happy to see it. So yeah, glad to cover Volcoross for the week. All right, man, that's going to move into our patron thank you. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to all of our patrons who contribute to the show. They really mean a lot, especially this time of year. A lot of bills are coming due. A lot of year-end bills are happening. So it's nice to be able to get in there and cover all of that and not have to worry too much about what's going on with the show and hosting the show and managing the show. But I'd like to give a special shout out to Alianas, Arajian, Celian, James, Kapawi, Max, Shorel, and Vespin. Thank you so much for everything you give to the show as well. But yeah, we appreciate all of our patrons, and man, oh man, do you ever help the show be what it is and keep rolling and happening. And even though, we release on a Thursday this week, and I think it might end up being a Thursday next week, we still make sure we get our episode in every week for you all and for us. And it's always fun to chat with Jason and hear what you guys have to say in Discord and on Twitter about what's going on around your World of Warcraft.
Absolutely. Thank you, patrons, so much for the support. It's been a great year for the show. It's been a great year for World of Warcraft, I feel like, overall, and that usually means good things for the show and good things for our community. So thank you all for helping us keep it going. I mean, it's been a never-ending challenge with scheduling and stuff and lining that all up this really whole calendar year, and maybe even a little bit longer than that. It's been a year of transition for us at the show, I think, in a lot of ways, and patron support has really helped smooth that out and help keep delivering the show the way that you guys expected, and help us keep our huge archives online and all that stuff. So thank you all so much. And thank you for all the support over the course of this whole year and for as long as we've been doing this. It means a lot.
All right. Yeah, man. If you're trying to find our Patreon, you can find it over at patreon.com/thestartingzone, and you can hop in and support the show as well. We really appreciate it. And all the cash goes towards the show and supporting the show and keeping it running. So if you folks have enjoyed this episode of The Starting Zone, consider heading on over to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. They really help out our show, and frankly, we love reading them and hear from our listeners. This one comes in from High King Benjamin, entitled The Unplug and Plug-In Podcast I Needed. Been playing WoW on and off since the first day of launch. This podcast contributed to my sticking with the game throughout the entire expansion. New playtime record. Oh, I love catching up with these guys. They talk about elite WoW stuff and make it accessible for me, a peon. Love it. Keep up the great work. I can't think of that without ready to work. Yes, me lord. Just get into all this. That whole thing for me is just, it screams peon and screams, oh man.
I mean, that's what we think of.
Yeah.
But now, is High King Benjamin a peon? That can't be right.
Maybe he was. He's done his time. Okay. He's been playing since launch. He's earned his High King.
I think High King Benjamin's not giving himself enough credit.
Yeah, maybe.
It's just, I think, what I'm thinking. But thank you for writing in, High King Benjamin. And you don't have to be. If you think of yourself as a peon, you can get out there and accomplish your goals.
Yeah, I just appreciate that we set a new playtime record with this expansion. I think that's a great news.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad we could help you do that for sure.
I think going into the next expansion, this is, like I said, if they are keeping the cadence that we saw inside Dragonflight, and they are attempting to improve upon the stuff that they learned from this expansion, and they aren't going in a, I guess, regression pattern of what happened previously in the last two expansions, we're just going to keep improving on things and moving in this positive direction. Next expansion, man, I am excited for what comes next with World of Warcraft, if that's the direction we're going. That is going to be really good. All right.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I think the future is real bright, and I think the present is really good too, and we should appreciate it. I'm starting to think that Dragonflight is going to land in the top 3 expansions for me of all time, and I feel like it's a bit underappreciated in its day. I think it's going to be one of those expansions that people look back on, like Mists, where it's like, oh, that seems like it was really fun. I didn't spend enough time in there. Oh, I wish I had done that. I think Dragonflight certainly has its issues. Every version of WoW always has. It's not a perfect, game in any way, but it's very enticing. It makes your brain itchy. That's when WoW's at its best. It makes your brain itchy, and you want to find more stuff in it and do more things and experience more of the world. And I think Dragonflight does that really well, and that's something that also has been working with Season of Discovery. So it is a great time, and I think the future is really bright.
Yeah, me too. All right, that's going to wrap up episode 609 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If you want to contact the show and leave your feedback or ask a question, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter, or you can hop into our Discord by going to thestartingzone.com/Discord and joining our Discord server over there and having some conversations with us through that. If you want to get your hands on some sweet TSD gear, which a few people have lately, which has been really nice, you can find that over at TeePublic. That's teepublic.com/stores/The Starting Zone. You can get designs on shirts and mugs and stickers and all that kind of fun stuff. And if folks are trying to find you, Jason, where can they find you on the internet?
Best place to find me, as always, is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald. You can also find me on Blue Sky. I haven't been posting over there, but I do have an account, and I do read stuff over there, so you can come say hi over there. You can find me streaming sometimes on twitch.tv/Shieldwald, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday nights usually for Raid and Keystone stuff. Streams have been intermittent lately. I've been having ISP problems again. Tuesday stream got cut off early. I didn't feel like fighting with it last night when I knew we were going to be doing Farok. So I don't know. I might try to fire it up Sunday and see if we have some better results. But I want to stream, when I'm playing, and my ISP doesn't want me to. But check out the Twitch channel. Check out youtube.com/Shieldwald as well. And maybe someday I will be out of the woods with this stuff, and we can just hang out while we play.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at this point, you can find me over at Twitter at Spencer_Downey, or over at Twitch, twitch.tv/SpencerHD, or on YouTube at youtube.com/@SpencerHD. There's a lot of things changing around at Twitch at the moment. They're doing some interesting stuff, but it might mean I end up streaming a bit more. We'll find out. But we'll have to wait and see what direction they're moving in. But with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.